I'm a little bit late to the party, but I am here, and this DLC news is the gift that keeps on giving at this point, so I guess the later I am, the more information I have to provide. So, shortly after the trailer was released for the Wave 4 DLC, we had a little bit of quick coverage and some recaps on it, but Nintendo Japan also published an article with some of the new details that I didn't cover before, so let's gloss over them very quickly. I am also aware that we have been getting character profiles, but I will be saving my opinions on that until we have them all. Anyways, as we saw earlier, Wave 4 is going to be arriving on February the 12th or the 13th, based on what time zone you are in. This has been confirmed. It very clearly states that the DLC is going to include stuff that we already knew about, such as the new side story called Cindered Shadows, new characters and classes, but they also highlight paralogs and activities as well, which is interesting. I'm not entirely sure what the new activities are going to be, but I assume the paralogs are going to be similar to the main story, just one for each of the new characters, or possibly some of the paired ones based on the locked-in roster. One important thing that they did make note of here, however, is that the story is completely separate from the main story. In order to play it, you go into a totally separate mode, create an entirely new save file, and an entirely new byleth. The story, as also seen by the character designs in the trailer, is going to be pre-time skip, it looks like. And the article says that it's going to be pretty close to the beginning of the game, in terms of when it takes place. In terms of what the story entails, though, we got a little bit more detail. Apparently our characters follow a suspicious figure into the basement of the monastery and through some tunnels into a town called Abyss. Nobody knew about this town outside of rumors, and the church has allowed this town to exist and turned a blind eye to it as a last-ditch location for outcasts of society. Recently, the Abyss has come under attack from invaders, so of course it's up to us to become the heroes that they need. The Abyss is also home to the unwritten fourth house of Garreg Mach, the Ashen Wolves. I do have a bit of analysis to say on this, but I'll save it until later after I finish covering the gameplay elements in this article. Everyone has been dying to know who you will be able to use in this mode, especially since we got to see some unorthodox combinations in the trailer, and it has now been confirmed that there will be a set, pre-decided roster for the mode. 3 of the characters we saw locked are Ash, Linhardt, and Hilda, but from the trailer, of course, we saw all 3 of the Lords, and I believe we saw Dedue and Hubert as well. In terms of how this mode plays out, we don't really have too many details, but it is confirmed that the cycle here is going to be different to what we did in our usual playthroughs in the monastery, but it will have some sort of cycle, and I presume you get to run around a home base or the like and teach students and do the activities and stuff like that. They also say that the maps are going to have a lot of gimmicks, and that the overall difficulty is higher than the main game, which I guess is a good thing. Personally, I hope we have some new map clear objectives and some new types of gameplay to help spice things up a bit more than your usual route enemy and defeat boss. This also goes without saying, but by playing the side story, you can recruit new characters from the side story into the main game and, I assume, get the new classes as well. And that's everything that was in the article. It gave us a quick overview of the details and what is and isn't part of the mode, but now let's talk about some speculation and impressions. These may have some spoilers for the main game, so if you haven't played the main game yet, this is where we say farewell. Now, for the juicy bits. There are a few details that were brought to my attention through browsing the internet or my comment section in the last video. Yes, I read every last one of them. And one of the major things that people brought up was the fact that Byleth's name is the Ashen Demon, and this house is called the Ashen Wolves. Could this be some sort of implication that there may be some sort of connection with these characters in Byleth, and that may have something in common story-wise? It's certainly possible, but the only creative thing I could think of is that this is the dumping ground for Rhea's quote-unquote failed experiments. We know that she has been trying for centuries to bring back Sothis to the world, but what happened to all the people that weren't brought back? Surely they can't have all stayed in the monastery. After all, look at how Geralt managed to vanish for a long period of time without Rhea really pursuing him. Another small theory I have is that this may be a place of hidden knowledge of the past. Something that we all know from the main story of the game is that Seteth would constantly censor information that he did not want normal people discovering. This is mostly in the form of books, but who's to say that humans themselves can't be hidden away either? A person's memory can tell a story, akin to a book in its own way. The only thing that really makes me look sideways at these theories, however, is the ages of the students that we get to recruit. They're all relatively close to the ages of our own students in the main story, maybe a couple years older. The Abyss does seem to be an old town, but what bothers me is how this is an actual house from Garrick Mach, and they have their own banner and everything. Yuri is the leader, and he's quite young, making me feel like they had to have been removed from the monastery quite recently. And if they were to just be removed to be allowed to live in exile, so to speak, why is it important enough for them to have an associated banner? Unless I'm reading too in-depth into this and it's just their own way of branding themselves as an unofficial house. Despite all the speculation I do have one major question. How does this work into our main storyline? Like I said before, the story is separate, but it has to have some sort of connection with the main story. In the trailer, we see them fighting monsters, so one of the popular requests is to hope that this is them fighting against those who slither in the dark, and maybe we get some backstory on them. But I'm not really sure, seeing as, for a trailer, this gave us such little amounts of information overall. We do see some allusions to the Abyss now in some of the NPC side quests, but in terms of the main conflict, we never once hear anything about a hidden town or a hidden group operating in the shadows or some other force that contributes to the conflict. And I don't think they will, considering that they are going to be recruitable and join you, but I question the level of depth that they will have adding to the main story outside of showing up and just existing. They do have supports with other characters, so we can definitely assume that they have some relevant backstory, but I just don't really see a major contribution or change to the post-time skip conflict. Having said all of that, I have no way to really know what is or isn't coming. For all I know, this could just be a train wreck of a single story arc that makes no sense in the large scale of things and just exists to give you the new peeps in your normal playthrough. But let's be optimistic and hope for the best. Let me know in the comments what your wacky theories are for this arc. It's always interesting to see what other people have or haven't noticed, especially when it provides a different perspective from mine. With all that being said, I think we're up to speed on all the major news elements of the game aside from the character profiles. I'm going to be covering those once they're all released on their own. Also, let me know if you guys would be interested in seeing a stream when Byleth releases in Smash. I'm not very good, but I was thinking of doing one just to goof around with our newest Fire Emblem edition. Anyways, that's all for me today. I shall see you all in the next video very soon. Peace.